In the winter of 1933, America was exhausted, factories silent, millions jobless. The Great Depression had broken the back of industry and the spirit of a nation. But far across the Atlantic, in the ashes of Europe, a different storm was rising, a storm that would drag the world into chaos and make the United States richer than it had ever imagined. This is not the story of glory or heroism. It is the story of how one man's war turned America's poverty into power, how destruction abroad became prosperity at home, how the darkest chapter in human history gave birth to an economic empire. When Adolf Hitler came to power in Germany, America was still counting its scars. Banks had collapsed. Unemployment stood near 25%. Industrial giants like Ford and General Motors struggled to keep their doors open. But Hitler's ambitions, his drive to rebuild Germany's military and seize Europe, would soon demand something the United States could supply better than anyone else: industry. At first, America watched from a distance. It sold steel, oil, and machinery, neutral on the surface, profitable beneath it. For every factory Hitler built, American companies sold the tools to make it run. Oil from Standard Oil, engines from Ford, technology from IBM. It was business disguised as diplomacy, a transaction between capitalism and catastrophe. "We have learned to make war pay," a newspaper declared in 1938. And so the Depression economy began to stir. Ships filled with supplies left New York Harbor, bound for a continent preparing to burn. When Hitler invaded Poland in 1939, the world changed overnight. Europe was on fire, and the United States was still officially neutral. Yet American factories began to roar again. President Franklin Roosevelt called the nation the arsenal of democracy. He understood a truth few could admit. War creates demand, and demand creates jobs. The Lend-Lease Act of 1941 opened the floodgates. Tanks, planes, bullets, and bombs poured from American assembly lines, not just for America, but for every ally who could pay, or promised to. Detroit stopped making cars and started making B-24 bombers. Boeing filled the skies with aircraft faster than any nation in history. DuPont created explosives by the ton, and General Electric powered every front with light and energy. Every factory job lifted a family. Every contract turned a company into a giant. And the nation that had once stood in breadlines now stood at the heart of the largest industrial effort the world had ever seen. By 1944, American production was greater than that of Germany, Japan, and Italy combined. The war that Hitler began had transformed America into the workshop of the world. "Victory is built on production," Roosevelt said, and production had made America unstoppable. When the bombs finally stopped, the world lay in ruins. But across the Atlantic, American factories still thundered. They had built planes, ships, and weapons by the million. And now they would build everything else. Jeep factories made cars, ammunition plants turned out refrigerators, radar laboratories became the birthplace of computing. War had not only made money, it had made knowledge. Through Operation Paperclip, hundreds of German scientists were brought to America. Their research in rocketry, medicine, and engineering seeded new industries. From ballistic missiles came NASA. From military radar came microwave ovens. From the chaos of war came the science of progress. Europe was broken, its cities leveled. So America became the builder. The Marshall Plan reconstructed nations with American money and American steel. Every bridge rebuilt, every factory restored, became a new market for US goods. In 1945, the United States held half of the world's industrial capacity and 2/3 of its gold reserves. The war that Hitler started had turned one nation into an economic empire. But prosperity came with a price. The same war machine that fed the world would not fall silent. The Cold War began almost before the guns cooled. America's military-industrial complex was too profitable to stop. New enemies appeared, new contracts followed, and the cycle of production continued. What had once been wartime necessity became peacetime business. Companies born from the Second World War, Lockheed, Boeing, Raytheon, General Dynamics, expanded into a permanent industry of defense. The same assembly lines that built bombers now built jets, missiles, and satellites. And so Hitler's war did not just make America rich in the moment, it built a system, a machine that still turns today. We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence by the military industrial complex, President Eisenhower warned. He knew that America's greatest strength had been forged in the fires of its greatest enemy. From the ashes of Europe rose a new world, one powered by American industry, science, and money. The war that destroyed nations also created an era of unmatched prosperity. Highways, homes, universities, and corporations were built on the profits of war. The middle class was born. Consumer culture exploded, and the United States became the global standard for wealth and influence. But beneath the miracle lay a truth too uncomfortable to ignore: that the death of millions had become the seed of prosperity for millions more. The war that was meant to end civilization had instead rebuilt it, for some. The price of greatness is responsibility, Churchill once said. And with its newfound wealth, America would bear that responsibility for generations. Hitler did not intend to make America rich, but his war did. It tore the world apart, and in doing so, it forced a sleeping nation to awaken, to build, to innovate, to lead. Factories became fortunes, science became commerce, destruction became the engine of modern progress. And so the question remains: if war built wealth once, will peace ever do the same?